it was almost like my muscles had lost density. I don't know if you can see this in the camera right here, but my skin is unbelievably loose at this point. And I went to the doctors about this, and they attributed this to anything other than finasteride. They wanted to say it was Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, that I've always had this loose skin. But as a bodybuilder, I've known my body for my entire life, man.
All right, Mark, wrap it up, man. How have you been since you try to save your hairline? I feel like you would look good bald just looking at you, honestly. Like, you'd look more diesel with the androgens firing and no hair.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Ron. I wish I'd come to that conclusion myself before all this happened. It's been a nightmare, man. My cognition is absolutely shot at this point. So, I started taking finasteride back in January of 2021, and I took it for 15 months, not realizing that the symptoms I was experiencing was caused by it. So it was primarily cognitive for me in the beginning. I had really bad slurred speech that kind of just popped up probably within the first week of taking the medication. That was sort of intermittent. 2 or 3 times a week I would experience that. Now, look, for somebody like me, I'm a construction health and safety manager, so I do a lot of presentations at work. I mean, part of my job is, I'd say the vast majority of my job is communication, right? Knowing how to talk to people, having that emotional intelligence. All that has essentially been wiped out at this point. So I took the drug from January until January 2021 until April of 2022.
Go about how you went into, getting on the drug, your research upon, the decision about the drug, and overall, do you feel like you knew the dice you were rolling with it?
Sexual symptoms, right? I did my due diligence. I did about 3 to 4 months of research before I actually took the drug. I went to the HIMSS website, got prescribed the drug. I had it at my doorstep within a matter of probably a week or two. Took no time whatsoever. It actually sat on my shelf for about 3 months before I finally decided to take it. But I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. I read the reviews, and you don't hear about, some of these crazy symptoms that people have. So, and the ones that you do hear about, you just assume that, hey, once I quit taking this medication, this will all go away. So I felt very comfortable taking the drug. I wasn't concerned in the least bit. So that's why people that say this is a nocebo effect, I mean, the reason I took it for so long was because I didn't attribute any of my symptoms to the drug.
Yeah, you were literally using your mind to be like, no, it's not that. Like, you were anti-nocebo affecting it for months, so that's pretty hilarious. That's the common bullshit that they say.
I woke up actually in July of 2021, about 6 months after taking the drug, and everything changed. There was this massive cognitive shift. I felt like I'd essentially been lobotomized. I woke up on a Monday morning, and everything was just foggy. My entire perception of reality was foggy. I had developed this essentially permanent speech impediment. I recall going to work and having to do a presentation. It was actually a safety orientation for some new hires. And I got about 5 minutes in the orientation, and I forgot all this information that I had been teaching for 5 years just went out of my mind. I couldn't remember a single thing. And it felt like it was dementia. I couldn't even figure out what the hell could be causing this. So at that point, I went to about 3 different neurologists over the course of about 6 months. I had MRIs done, MRAs, EEGs, EMGs. Not one thing came back negative. The doctors just kind of told me this was all psychosomatic. This was in my head. This was anxiety related. And so you kind of believe them. As a matter of fact, the one neurologist, even told me, he saw my paperwork that I was taking finasteride. And he said, "What are you taking this for?" I said, "Oh, for hair loss." He's like, "I've been taking this for 20 years. It's great." So you hear things like that, and you just assume that, finasteride can't be the cause. Well, it was finally in April of 2022, I sat down and I did some research, and I found the Propecia Health forums, and I saw these horror stories about finasteride.
Yeah, Propecia Health is very schizophrenic, those forums. It's honestly like reading that could
it did, but it's like,
put you lower in a depression.
These physical issues or these sexual issues. At this point, it was all neurological for me. So I said, let me just test this and come off finasteride and see what happens. So I came off, and within a matter of about a month, I lost 20 pounds. And that's not a hyperbole. That's not an exaggeration. Look, I'm a bodybuilder. I've been bodybuilding for the past 15 years of my life. I've been featured on bodybuilding.com. I have my own YouTube channel. I served in the military for 6 years as well as a non-commissioned officer when I ETS. You can have all the credibility in the world, and people still don't want to believe you. I'm college educated as well. So it's just amazing, though, how quick my body changed. Within a month, I lost 20 pounds. I lost a bunch of muscle. My lifts in the gym went down tremendously. I know I watched your video. You were talking about how your incline bench press went down, and that was probably one of the first things I noticed. I went from bench pressing, 105 with dumbbells to struggling with 75 pounds. As a bodybuilder, I'm sure you can relate to this. You kind of examine yourself.
Yeah, I'm like a roid head, so like I was lifting extremely heavy weights, and when I do a cycle that's double what I normally do, and the shit gets weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker, I'm just like,
so,
you know.
My lifts went down, I lost all this weight, and then about 2 months after coming off the medication, I was actually like scratching my arm, and I noticed that my skin, it was like looser. It was almost like my muscles had lost density. I don't know if you can see this in the camera right here, but my skin is unbelievably loose at this point. And I went to the doctors about this, and they attributed this to anything other than finasteride. They wanted to say it was Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, that I've always had this loose skin. But as a bodybuilder, I've known my body for my entire life, man.
Dude, I have to look that. I have to look that shit up. What is that called?
You inherit. You're essentially born with it.
Oh, yeah. So at like 5 years old, you look like a flabby, like the Family Guy that flew on his skin.
Like me. But I'm watching my body change. I'm watching my skin get looser. I'm watching my face change. My skull got smaller. Blake was mentioning that too. Like, he felt like his skull got smaller when he wears hats. And yep.
My motorcycle helmet does fit different. I just rode my Ducati yesterday, and I was like, it was loose. And I'm like,
currently, man, I've got the loose skin. I've got a higher pitched voice that came about 6 months ago. I've got extreme insomnia. I sleep for literally, without exaggerating, 2 to 3 hours a night.
Yeah, I'm jealous of a Kosh. It's like 2 to 4 hours for me. Kosh over there is like a koala just out all the fucking time. Like, I wish I had that side
like
effect. That sounds better than what I'm doing.
I still have the speech impediment. I got the cognitive impairment. I've got the muscle loss.
Yeah, anhedonia is like really hard to describe, because like my audience will be like, well, you smiled in that video. That's like not how, like, when I interact with people, it just doesn't make sense. There's no like neurotransmitter firing going on. I'm just like a fucking vegetable. Like, it's very hard to describe that side effect and then have it not painted like, oh, you're just a little depressed. Like, I was bipolar too before this happened to me. Like, I was constantly either up here or down here. Like, I know what depression is. This isn't like, I'm not even depressed. I'm just like
somebody
mute.
Who went through that, you understand, like, you know what depression feels like. This doesn't feel like depression. This is entirely different, man. Entirely different.
No, this isn't. There's not, like, my whole life is going great before this. There's no reason for me to be depressed. So why do you guys all had pretty similar stories of, again, I took a mushroom that mimicked finasteride, and people take saw palmetto out of the grocery store that mimics finasteride, and this happens. But you guys did your due diligence and went through the medical community and suffered the consequences. Like, why do you think they all are so aggressive to deny your reality, especially with all the online resources in 2023? I could see, like, when finasteride came out in like the 80s or 90s, you guys would get told off, but like now with the online research available, how come all you guys spent all this money? Blake spending 60 grand, he could have had a nice like German car, you know, that's out the drain over his fucking, he can't even think, and he's not taken seriously. Like, why do you guys attribute that you guys have all been denied when you guys, you know, you guys aren't going to like the backdoor witch doctor to, like, you know, get hypnosis done or shit? Like, this is like big time medical, you know, faculties that are just like shoving you guys out the window.
I think one of the things is the stigma. You know, for a long time, people have been really ashamed about talking about this issue, and I think that's really one of the main challenges that we have to overcome with this. You know, we need to just openly say what has happened. And to your audience, I would very concisely say, you know, what would be my motive in saying here publicly to an audience of 61,000 people that my genitals have shrunk and changed? What guy in the entire universe would come on and say that? What would be the motive? What would I have to gain from saying that? And also, what do I have to be ashamed of in saying that? It's not my fault. I trusted a doctor. So that's something that everyone does. Everyone is taught to trust doctors. When you're a little kid, you're told, don't do cocaine, don't smoke cigarettes, you know, don't abuse drugs. They don't say...
I wish I did coke instead of lime.
Yeah, me too. Would have recovered in a fortnight, you know, in a couple days. But, you know, we need to talk about this. This is a big problem. Anyone who's suffering from this doesn't deserve it. We need to speak out now. We need to do something about this. This is completely ridiculous. There are like at least 300 people who are dead over a cosmetic drug. I mean, let that sink in. 300 people who have thrown themselves in front of trains, hung themselves, fathers who have shot themselves in the head over fucking hair loss. Is this the kind of society that we want to live in? Where you have, are we like the Aztec Empire where, oh, well, it's only a small minority who are having their hearts cut out to appease the sun god? Or like the Colosseum, oh, it's only a minority who are fighting to the death. Look at the Colosseum, all the people are enjoying the fight. What kind of society do we want to live in?
It's like, this has been known for a long time, again, denied, but it's like, if they solve this and solve this disorder, like the same thing with post-Accutane, you guys would all shut the fuck up because you guys took the cure and got reversed. It's like the fact that you guys have to fundraise thousands of dollars to get like the, here, look, it's proven with a data-backed mice study that, you know, you can't dispute this study, all your little fuck, like, a lot of the complaints about the early PFS network studies is they're too small, and I'm like, because they're fundraised. Like, these are volunteers trying to come together, you fucking idiot. Like, this is really, like, for me being the person I am with the biohacking connections I have, this is, like, really shook up, you know, all the top guys who are, like, now, again, going from, like, 60-40 not believing it to 50-50 believing it. And it's like, to me, why has this never been studied? Why does the PFS network have to fund this? Why couldn't the drug makers and or the medical community sound the alarm bell themselves and look into this? I wanted to wrap this up overall by saying, I don't, like, if you guys think these guys are coming on here to scrounge money from you and then this is all like some bullshit, like, oh, they're not even meant to, like, these people have had their lives destroyed and personally feeling the hell they're in for only 3 months, especially the sleep shit. Like, I feel like a fucking zombie all day because I can only sleep 4 hours. And Blake going through like half a bank account to try and figure out like, oh man, like maybe this guy can help me with, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. Blake thought he could just pay his way out of it and no light has come. Like, there's no reason Eric has to go and donate his scrotum over a little bit of depression, right? This is a real thing that is serious, and these are the brave guys who are coming out and out of the woodwork, right? You can go and see the communities on Propecia Help and then Reddit, obviously, that have been devastated by this. And I can't even talk, like, I can't even present on YouTube like I normally used to present, like, exactly like you, Mark. Like, I feel like I'm very struggling to get words out, where I used to be like, rapid fire, this is all I've done is been a YouTuber, present on camera for fucking 5 years. Like, I feel the cognitive issues day in, day out, and they'll randomly, like, I'll seem like I'm getting better, and then boom, like I'm at 70%, boom, back at 40%. Like, it's not like there's no like linear recovery, and I feel like Blake really proved that there's no linear recovery considering he's going on 10 years. So if you guys want to donate, I will have the link in the description and pinned comment. Again, these guys have no reason on a Sunday morning to be bitching about nothing, right? They're obviously driven to get out of this hell, and I hope you guys can help. I'll see you guys on my next one.